Let's go to Afghan refugee Shabnam Safar from the Australian Hazari Advocacy Network. She joins us from Melbourne. Thanks for joining us, Shabnam. Tell us about your concerns for the way women and girls are being forced to live in Afghanistan now.
Thanks, Chris, for shining some light on this issue. As you very rightly pointed, it has been abandoned. Afghanistan, particularly women of Afghanistan, have been abandoned. One decree at a time, or one rule or one order at a time over the last 3 years, the Taliban have made sure that women are systematically erased from society in Afghanistan. I think you mentioned that some of their freedoms were taken away. I would say that all of their freedom is taken away. From the day that the Taliban returned, they closed schools to girls over secondary school to girls, to teenage girls, and then soon after that, university was closed. Women are banned from most employment, even banned from going outside the house without a male chaperone. This is very, very similar and very rapidly going back to the Taliban's rule in the 90s, their atrocities and the barbarism that they ruled with in the 90s. And they really are using control over women's bodies and lives as a means to deepen and enshrining their power and control in Afghanistan. But as you very rightly mentioned there as well, the women of Afghanistan, the girls in Afghanistan are some of the bravest and the most courageous people I know, because they still defy it. They still resist the ban, or all the orders, all the rules against them, denying them their freedom. They resist all of that. They protest. They used to be able to go to protest on the street. They can't do that anymore, and they protest over social media. And they know that could be a death sentence for them, but they still protest. And we cannot leave that behind. We cannot forget them.
It's incredibly brave, incredibly risky for them to protest in any way. Now, your family experienced the Taliban before they were pushed aside by the global military intervention. You were lucky enough to get out of Afghanistan into Pakistan while still a young girl, a baby, but you're still in touch with what's going on there and the community. And it's cruel enough that any young girls should be brought up in a regime like this. But there will be so many girls and women in Afghanistan now who have experienced freedom and got a start in their education and are suddenly having it withdrawn and are being forced as prisoners in their own home. It must be just heartbreaking and soul-destroying for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll just do a very minor correction there, that I actually grew up in Pakistan and came to Australia about 15 years ago. But the horrors and the stories of the Taliban rule is not a foreign phenomenon to anyone from Afghanistan. We've grown up with those stories from our elders, from a generation who experienced this before the generation that is currently subject to these atrocities and these crimes against humanity. The women of Afghanistan were, over the 2 decades of international intervention there, they were doing more than educating themselves, more than getting involved in society. They were building their nation. They were re-establishing hope, and they were getting involved in that effort to build and imagine.
They're even in Parliament. They're even in Parliament, even then at grave risk to their own security. Just finally then, Shabnam, tell me what the rest of the world can do. What can the international community do? It seems to be doing nothing. And in particular, what can Western feminists do to help women in Afghanistan?
I think the West has portrayed people of Afghanistan as oppressed, particularly women of Afghanistan, as oppressed so much that we have normalized it, that we are so desensitized to it, that women being oppressed in Afghanistan is kind of an expected thing now. We feel a little sorry for it, but we don't do anything about it. And what I would urge everyone who's listening or watching right now is to dismantle that system or that thinking and connect with people people from Afghanistan. Women in Afghanistan are still resisting, they're still protesting and defying, and governments can hold the Taliban to account. They are controlling through terrorism. They're terrorizing an entire nation, holding its people hostage, and using gender apartheid. That's what the UN experts are calling it, and that's what the international community needs to come together around.
That is a good term, gender apartheid. That's exactly what it is. And if you forgive me for saying so, Shadnan, you're a classic example. When we see how intelligent and articulate you are and the work that you're doing here in Australia, having been lucky enough to come here, I shudder to think the horror of the life that you would be experiencing if you were in Afghanistan now. Thanks so much for talking to us and shedding a light on that, and we'll keep in touch.